Welcome to our March 7th Parent Leadership Team meeting. Can we all stand to say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. And now I am so pleased to present Stanley Briz. And he is with Eckerd, and he works as the Prevention and Family Services Manager. And he was in the paper yesterday, so if he looks familiar, he was there. Yes, and just turn it on. It'll take 2 seconds to warm up.
2 seconds? Done. All right. And unfortunately, I don't have all the time I'd like to have. This presentation usually takes a little bit longer, but we're going to be able to get through it. Really quickly, Stanley Briz with Eckerd, like she said, and the two main services we have in Brevard County. One is a school-based prevention program, what we currently serve Eckerd, Endeavor, and Coquina Elementary with. We have staff members placed there that helps 3rd through 5th grade is the contracted grades with anything they need as far as substance abuse prevention, learning coping mechanisms and skills using the second step curriculum. They're based there all day long, have offices there, and help the students with that. Our second program is the family visitation program that's subcontracted through DCF to provide supervised visitation for families that have lost custody of their children and that are in the dependency system. And we also do private pay cases as well. So that's basically what Eckerd does in Brevard County, aside from the Computer for Kids program, which we service everyone with, families that need computers. Companies have donated used computers to us when they've upgraded. Personal computers have been donated as well. So if you need an application for that, grab my card and email me. I'll get that to you. So that's my quick spiel about what I do. Moving on to the presentation. This is a presentation that we do as part of BISAP, the Brevard Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition. I've been going to elementary schools. I've been to St. Mark's Academy. I've been to Sherwood. I've been to Endeavor. Trying to remember if I've forgotten anyone, and it's been great. And we've done pretty much every grade from those schools. And we start off by showing them what these substances are, and you can keep flipping through. And it's interesting how the kids react, especially when I get to that slide there with the mixed drinks, etc. Because I ask them different questions. What do they think alcohol looks like? What are some facts about it? Does it look dangerous? Does it look bad? We go into some of the alcohol risks that can be listed there and read that. And a lot of them don't understand some of those. It's interesting, even at 3rd and 4th grade, what they do understand, what they don't. But some of the warnings and things through it. And once again, we're going to be moving at a pretty quick pace. Tobacco and nicotine, I go into that as well. I can do the next slide. And kind of show them the different forms and types, talk about what they've seen, what they haven't seen. And the reason why we do this is pretty much the theory of demystification. A lot of parents, surprisingly, still don't talk to their children about any of these substances until it's way too late. Some of them think of it, okay, I'll wait till they're maybe in 7th grade. It's too late by then. They'll say, oh, okay, I'll wait till maybe they're in high school. It's too late by then. A lot of these kids have a profound knowledge, even at 2nd and 3rd grade. Yeah, I know what that is. That's Skoal, or that's one of those Virginia Slims. I mean, they come out with this stuff, and a lot of them don't talk about it to their parents because, oh well, so and so told me about that at school. I can't tell mom or dad; they'll be upset. So I'm not going to tell them about that. That's my school secret thing that I know about. So start this conversation with them, demystify them. We go into everything because these things are now being shown on, well, music videos. They're seeing it on television. They're seeing it in movies. So if we don't tell them, if you don't tell them, that's how they're going to learn about it. Especially things that don't look like the normal cigarette or the normal drug. Gone are the days of, I'll put a big X across, an alcohol can or a cigarette. This one is very interesting. If you can slide there for a moment, I show them exactly what the components of a cigarette are, and you should hear the gags and stuff that come out of their mouth. Looking at that from the top to bottom, paint stripper, so you got acetone, lighter fuel, I'm looking over there, this is right behind me, butane, methanol, ammonia, acetic acid, disinfectant, polonium-210, you don't even know what that is, but radioactive materials. arsenic, carbon monoxide, the material that's in mothballs. And so by showing them that they inhale up to 4,000 chemicals when they have one cigarette, really, really makes a powerful impact. And so what it does also is it sends them home. It's like, well, they go, well, my mom smokes. Is that what mommy's doing? It's like, well, that's what's in a cigarette, so maybe if you want to talk to mom about that, ask her. So it opens up conversation. Once again, we go through the risks and the statistics. Marijuana, of course. Go through that, show them the different forms of that, how they can see it, how it might be offered to them, the whole chemical name of it, all the street names of it. We go through all of those things as well. Once again, open up the conversation. And in the middle, I do take questions as I can, depending on the time. Show them all the risks. And you'll see with mostly every drug, there are risks to it. And they'll even ask at this point, even at 3rd and 4th grade, it's like, well, they're trying to make that legal. Like, that doesn't hurt you. It's okay, isn't it? What about people who need it for glaucoma? 3rd and 4th grade. So these questions come up, and so I handle that very carefully, the best I can with them, and just show them some of the risk associated with it, and also the knowledge that what they might get on the street may not be what is given medicinally to people that decide to use it for that purpose. You cannot trust what you're being given by another student or by someone on the street for sure. You don't know what you have. These days, it's being laced with all sorts of things. Chemicals, other drugs, stronger drugs. Cocaine, we go into that, the obvious risks of that, how they might see it, different forms. And here, show them all the things that can happen to their bodies from abusing drugs, abusing cocaine specifically on this particular slide. And once again, a lot of questions, and especially those of them that are getting into the science classes and stuff are really interested in this to see what can happen to them. Bath salts, interesting stories that go along with this. I shared the news story with them about the guy that got high on bath salts and decided to become a cannibal. And so, I shouldn't say decided because he was out of his mind at that point, but actually ate someone's face when he was high on bath salts. And the thing I focus on this is that this is a legal product that you can buy from the store. So before I get into what that actually is and what it does, I asked them, is it illegal? Because all the ones we were talking about before, well, cigarettes are legal, but we got into cocaine and marijuana. These are legal things. So we tell them that there is a normal use for this. There is a legal use for this, but these are the risks associated with abusing that, things that can happen. And we get into a conversation about that. And once again, never think they're too young. I have had some of the toughest questions from the younger ones. They're so smart. Salvia, this is a new synthetic drug now, or marijuana, I should say. They've made it synthetic, comes from the plant. And they've kind of made it something, of course, that you can inhale, that you can smoke. We can move on to the next one, too. These are the paraphernalia that they use. So I show them all of those things and what can happen when using it. And as you see, a lot of the risks continue to repeat themselves, et cetera, what they are, numbness, memory loss. K2, that's a synthetic spice. I thought I was talking about spice. The difference with that is I tell them, what does that look like to you if you see that in the store? Does that look like anything dangerous? They go, no. They say tea. It looks like a tea bag. Doesn't look like it's harmful at all. And that's the packaging that stuff came in. Of course, now there have been laws put in place to prevent the sale of these things. But if they're offered that by someone that has that, a lot of younger ones won't know what that is. Once again, all the risk associated with it. And a lot of this information, actually the bulk of it, you can find online, obviously. I pulled mine from the Above the Influence website. Above the Influence is a great resource, and we're going to get into more of the resources from that website. Molly, MDMA, ecstasy. And now this is popularized in music. You'll see it on pop songs. You'll see it in rap songs. Some of the songs that these kids sing along to have Molly in it as a lyric, and it's cool to be dancing with Molly, partying with Molly. It's a party drug. Supposed to make your party experience high. And this is the form that it comes in many cases. And I focus on this slide, and they pick out the little things that they see. I mean, it looks like either Valentine's Day candy, Smarties. It has a little @ symbol on one of them. There's a character from Pinky and the Brain, a Warner Brothers cartoon on it on the top right. a little white shamrock, butterflies. So this is designed, there's even a Superman logo on one of them. This is designed to be able to be given to kids without them thinking they're getting anything harmful. Definitely dangerous. Once again, it's given that party atmosphere design to it to make it look like it's a good thing. Once again, all of the risk associated with that, so I go into that with them. And now we go on to other things that are legal. Go on to the next one. Go through all of the over-the-counter things they can get. So I ask them that question as well. Is this illegal? No, it's not illegal. But what are kids doing with all of these things? They're taking them to feel, high, or the drowsy feeling that they get from it. I actually had a friend, and I try to share this as I get into the age-appropriate groups, who was an alcoholic at, I would say 22, 23 years old. And we would keep alcohol from him, even when he was my roommate, would take everything out of the house. So he would look in my medicine cabinet and get NyQuil and use the NyQuil to get the same feeling. And when I discovered it, I noticed, because the NyQuil was very light, like he had tried to put water in it to dilute it so I wouldn't know what he was doing. So these are things that kids can get into it, and he got into that earlier than we knew. And when we found out, it was pretty much too late. Went to rehab, tried to get help, stayed in rehab for a while, and eventually came out, ended up hanging out with people from rehab, not a good thing. They relapsed together, and he died at the age of 26 from a relapse. So these are things that are definitely dangerous for us from a young age, and identifying it earlier, making sure that you talk to your children to demystify the drug talk with them. Start it off early, and it doesn't have to be a mommy and daddy's gonna sit you down and talk about something really serious to you, because then they're like, oh boy, am I in trouble? What's going on? And you might increase the curiosity. But just making sure that they understand these things, what's happening, what they are. We tell them that mom or dad can give you these things. I can move on to that. This one here is the date rape drug. And what I tell them about this is just being careful as they get older, especially when I talk to sixth graders. Moving into an older grade level where you might be going to different parties, you might be getting a little more freedom from mom and dad. Watch what you drink. Be careful. Make sure that you've prepared your own drink for yourself. And it's not to scare them, but just to be vigilant about that. Whether it's a drug this serious or whether someone's spiking it with alcohol when they shouldn't at the age of 13, because yes, that does happen. Some of the street names for this, stand alone without being diluted. And then once again, we go over the risk that associated with that. So kind of give them an education about the things we're talking about. More over-the-counter drugs that can be dangerous for them. You can slide through that. And what they see. Once again, there's directives to it, doctor's instructions, prescription medication, and then there's a slide in here, if you keep going, there, that I get to. And so this is my little Q&A section that I stop them and say, okay, what is he doing? And they answer that, of course. Is he supposed to be doing that? Who's that supposed to be for? Well, mom, dad, grandma, whoever you live with. But these are real dangers. So in your home, a lot of parents don't even think about maybe hiding or making sure their stuff's put away. And the child-proof caps, they can open them. They're old enough. Maybe a baby can't, but they can. And they're talking to their kids at school, their friends at school, and a lot of them have tried this stuff. They've taken a Vicodin, they've taken stuff, and it makes you feel so great. So these kids will try to do that. And then we get into the conversation as to why they try. And believe it or not, at 8, 9 years old, they know about escapism. They know about problems at home. A lot of them are coming from homes that have issues. The schools that we service have parents where a lot of their ages, and I know one of the teachers is here from one of the schools we serve over at Denver, some of the ages are quite young with parents. So we're talking about parents that may be 21, 20 years old themselves that are still dealing with issues that they were fighting with from teenage years about drug use. So if they see mom or dad do it, they might try it, no matter what the parents are telling them. Well, don't do what mom does, but I'm gonna go in this room right now and do this. Next one. Then this section here, choices, challenges, and changes. We go over this with them here. They each have a choice at their age because mom and dad won't always be there. So I go into, you can back up one more, with a little more time on this section. Back to the next one. And, well, not back further. Gotta watch how I say that, right? I show them the next slide here. and point out a young man's life. So you got him there on his little tricycle there. I think that's when he was in Space Coast Early Intervention Center. Picture he took with the Mets, and then he made the AB honor roll down there with his parents. And these were kids that come from a good family, very, very good family. So they have choices to get these rewards, these natural benefits that they can get. Move on to the next slide. And then the challenges come. So there's peer pressure at school. They're being made fun of. They're being offered a cigarette. Maybe there's pressure and challenges from the family where they think they need to escape from that, or they see mom or dad involved in some sort of substance abuse. And no matter what socioeconomic level that you're at, that can be the case. Rich, poor, middle class. This is that same child. This is his mugshot. This is my little brother. So you can't really tell in the picture, but he's sitting down because he's got it's hard doing this in front of adults. He's got a back brace on because in the commission of a crime, he was shot by the police and is now paralyzed for life. So when you don't make the right decision, when you have those choices and those challenges, this is what you end up with. Good family, but still ended up from peer pressure and from substance abuse. Wasn't an addict. He tried weed when he was with the wrong friends. And this happened to him when he was like 19? No, he was 20 years old. 20 years old. So right now he's serving 20 years, minimum mandatory, 20-year sentence in prison right now. His life has changed. He's making great progress, I would say spiritually and as a person, now that he's in this situation, but got caught up with the wrong people, did not listen to the direction that he was given, but could more have been done? That's the question parents and older siblings always ask themselves. So starting early is so important. Space. So then we go through some questions to kind of review, and once again, I take a little more time when I have more time with the children to kind of ask them, can you get addicted if you only do drugs once in a while? And we go over this information so they're able to answer these questions at the point. And it's done orally. They don't have to do it on paper, like they're taking a test or something. And these questions came from abovetheinfluence.com. A lot of people keep taking drugs. Very good conversation. Well, if you adults know all of this, why do you guys keep doing this? Why do you keep doing that to yourselves? Very good question for young children. And so the purpose of all of this is I'd like for you as parent leaders to kind of try to take this either back to your schools, because I can't get to every one of them, and Eckerd only serves a few that we have contracts with. So if I could have you kind of take a presentation similar to this and kind of move forward with it and find ways to implement it, most importantly at your own homes and your own neighborhoods. Move on to the next one. Good question that comes up here. Well, he's making straight A's. He's doing good grades. Everyone likes him. He's popular, and he's doing drugs. It ain't so bad, because when you're young, that's what's really important, right? I want to show you some information here from the Above the Influence website. I think the link before that, yeah, if you click on, if we have time,
Click on here.
back up to Made by Gina, about that. Yeah, make sure I don't want to run out of time. This is a little project we kind of have them do at this presentation. Hopefully it plays.
We have sound.
Yeah.
I guess you can say influence comes in all shapes and sizes. It can push you around and make you feel stupid. It can pressure you to do things you're not really into, and to try to fit in no matter what.
It likes to buffer.
It's buffering, it's okay.
To try to fit in no matter what. It's when you start to recognize the influences around you that you can stand up and just be yourself. My name's Gina, and this is what Above the Influence means to me.
And so she made that little project, and obviously they can't do that in 30 minutes. But what I try to have them do is look at that and think about what helps keep them above the influence of whatever it might be that's pressuring them towards substance abuse or towards any kind of self-destructive activity. And I don't know if you have the papers, but there's little papers, maybe in your bags, that has Above the Influence logo on it, and I create a little art project and I say, draw on that page and create something that helps keep you above the influence. And some of the creative ideas they come up with are wonderful. You can play Mark's story too, actually.
Oh, okay.
And that may not be in, but you don't need it in your bags if it's not. But
my name is Mark Banks Mackey, and I'm above the influence. Being above the influence means
buffering.
to rise above.
And this is just his story about things that helps keep him, and you can advance or help it along.
Above the influence. Being above the influence means to rise above things that's negative in our community, rise above the drugs, be above what people expect, be above what people expect in your community and people try to pressure you to do. I'm 14 years old and people expect in your community and people try to pressure you to do. I'm 14 years old and I sing classical music. If I really don't become a famous opera singer, I would still like to teach voice or teach kids classical music. If I really don't become a famous opera singer, I would still like to teach voice or teach kids, because I just like singing. That's my passion in life. So I would, if I can't do it, I would help other people try to fulfill their dream. This person, he came into my vocal technique class. He would fall or trip over desks, and everybody was like, "What is wrong with you?" And we actually seeing how the after effect and the things he was saying, doing just wasn't right. So, and we actually seeing how the after effect and the things he was saying, doing just wasn't right. So I was just and that's another reason why I should stay above the influence, because I don't want that to happen to me. It hurts me to see them doing it, and it hurts me to see that they can be better, and
And we can stop that there though. But this gives you the idea of the video that we show them, and then you can go to the Be It one, the next one, and show you that one as well. That one might be shorter too. And I really love Above the Influence for that reason. It's very easy to use, free resources on their website of different activities to do with the youth, in class, even at home.
We ask teens across the country to create and express a personal slogan for themselves, a sentence or phrase that encompasses their best traits and talents, and ultimately expresses what makes them above the influence.
We should always be expected and not to always be accepted.
It's not what I'm wearing, it's who I am as a person is why they want to be my friend.
I don't have to follow anybody else's, their pressure or anything. I just do.
A lot of buffering today.
Gives you more time to really think about it and ponder on it. The products.
This one's not cooperating.
And
It pretty much is what I explained, and we don't have to even show the whole video, but it just kind of shows you some of the things that they come up with from elementary school all the way up to high school. They can
expresses their best traits and
t-shirts.
talents, and ultimately expresses what makes them above the influence.
We should always be.
And yeah, it's probably gonna do that. But you can go to the website, you can go to YouTube, and it has all of these. This one's called Be It. And so once again, they make t-shirts, they do all sorts of little art-related projects, but it basically has them focus on what helps them and gets them into that group discussion about it. Because once they start discussing it as a group, they're more likely to get empowered from that. If your peers are talking about those things, not just your parents, not just your teachers and educators, it really helps. So we can help encourage that. And the last one I have, hopefully is able to be shown, is directed specifically towards parents. And this is from SAMHSA, not from Above the Influence. It's from the Substance Abuse and Health. And it's a little link, and it'll probably buffer, but this one will get through.
It didn't buffer when we practiced. I just want you to know.
This is true.
Oh, hey, bud.
Oh.
Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
It's a school night. With Gary and Todd?
Yeah?
Not sure about those two. I've been meaning to ask you. This is tougher than I thought. Is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No.
I hope not.
No.
I hope not, because alcohol can lead you to say things and do things that you really wish you hadn't. Isn't this what you're supposed to say?
I know.
So if any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too. I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you.
Ryan.
Yeah?
So start the conversation even before they're teenagers.
Good idea.
For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Excellent. Thank you, Jenny. Next time I'll just download it to like a drive, my fault. But that just shows you how awkward the conversation can possibly be. Especially if you've not opened up that channel with your child in that way before, but that they do hear you. So I love the fact that SAMHSA has put that out there to at least get parents. It was very quick. He was a little awkward about it. He was thinking. He wasn't sure about what to say to his son, but he did. And they showed the inner dialogue that the son's like, oh, I love you too, Dad. I get what you're trying to say, you know. But open up that conversation. And so this kind of shows you a little arc of what we do, showing them the substances, showing them what the issue is. I don't show them the parent video because that's really for you to have that conversation with them. That's something I'd like to take to parents. We do have like a parent presentation I'd like to actually create around that SAMHSA message. But what I do have, and some of you may not have gotten it because I didn't bring enough because I just thought of this last minute, is the Know the Law booklets, which we don't yet have in Brevard County. I've been searching for them. This is actually from Lake County, and I have little labels across the front about the Brevard County. But what it does is it goes through the things that children may not realize are illegal, the parents may not realize are illegal, that can get them into trouble, and shows them the consequences of what happens when they do break those laws, et cetera. And I think it's really educational, and it's little things they don't even think about when it comes to crimes on the computer, trespassing on a construction site, bullying, cyberbullying, things that can now get you into jail at a younger age. You don't have to be 18. So these are things that I really think that we should educate the youth on, and parents as well. Has a section there on page 14 about hosting parties, about weapons in the household. So Know the Law is an awesome guide, and I'm going to print more of it and try to get it out to more parent groups that I possibly can get it out to so that they can share this with their families, because I believe education is the way to get in front of this problem from all ends. Educating your parents, educating the youth, and no age is too young to start. I mean, no age at all. I've been watching the old episodes of The Cosby Show lately, and it means much more when you're older. And I'm like, man, that's right. You can have that conversation with your child. But if you have that relationship with them from an early age, it's much easier, but it's still never too late to start. So I have maybe 5 minutes for any questions that you could offer. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but I think you got the point of what we do.
Would you step up to the mic? Is the slideshow that you just presented to us available for us to kind of have and boost our confidence before we tackle this with our kids?
Yes. Okay. Yes, it is. I can have someone, Jenny or Diana.
Send it to me.
Okay.
And Diana, send it to both of us, and we'll make sure you get it.
And they can put it out there. And I'm open to suggestions. Thank you. Open to suggestions on adding to it, improving to it. I haven't put every possible drug in there that I could find. And I go through it pretty quickly, but the way I go through it, it opens up conversation. What I did for you was the kind of the Cliff Notes quick version, because as adults, most of the stuff you know already. You can look it up online, you can find it. But what's interesting is a lot of people don't know all of the effects and the statistics behind it that can help boost through them and saying, wow, I really need to talk to my kid about this. But yes, I can get that out to all of you via Jenny and Diana.
Okay, this will be our last question. But you can email too. His email's on our agenda.
How did you decide to pick those 3 schools as your partner school?
Well, for Eckerd, those are the schools that wanted us. And there's other schools that wanted us as well, but they have to fit certain criteria, whatever. It's a grant through DCF. So we'd like to be in more school. Funding is the issue. There's schools out there that want us, but funding is the issue. So we have to fund staff to be there. We'd love to be at every school in the county. But this presentation that I'm taking, and the 3 schools that we presented to, if you mean that, are just schools that asked us to come. I'll come to any school through the Brevard Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition that Eckerd's a part of, with all the other agencies. The school board also sits on that coalition as well. So eventually it may not just be me doing this presentation, be anyone. But I created it, so kind of take it.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Stanley. And I know you'll go back and carry this message. It's very important. And now, with another very important message, is Dr. Bingley.
Hi, folks. Remind me at the end, there's some school grades information that we are just receiving that I want to share with you. It doesn't apply to this year, but applies to next year, okay? So, Jenny, I think...
I'll get it for you.
You got it? It's the school visits. Folks, I do have a little longer time today, and I have about a 25-minute presentation. Some of you, I recognize faces, have seen it already. But it is what I am presenting at virtually every one of our schools, as well as our departments, our bus drivers, our custodians. And it really is something that I think our employees have felt, okay, this was important that I understand this. This is all pretty new to all of you. You've heard some parts of this. But in general, what I tell our staff is that this kind of articulates where we are, why we are where we are, and what is at stake, okay? And just as I feel it's pretty important that every employee understand that, I certainly feel it's important that you as parent leaders understand that, and then there'll be a lot of times for questions. I just did this yesterday afternoon, 25 minutes. I may even go faster for you guys. So I tell all the folks in our schools, teachers particularly, that the first half of this is some Budget 101. It really is. Because the second half then really gets down to what does that mean for all of us and for the mission that we have for our children. And you have to understand the first half before you can really get to the second half. Does that make sense? So I will go through it as quickly as I can, but I think it is pretty important that you have the same foundation of understanding that our employees are being given, okay? And then hopefully at the end we'll be able to talk about things that are even more valuable as it relates to our mission. So here's the start of Budget 101. We have 2 budgets, operating and capital. The operating is much bigger. You may or may not know, 84% of our operating budget represents people. It represents our compensation benefits for all of our employees. So all the rest of that budget, the 16% left over, then is all the other operational things. The capital funding is buildings, infrastructure, repair and failure, buses, technology, debt. This is what happened to those 2 budgets leading into this year. This slide I think you've seen. And the point I make to everybody is the operating side, you know, that's the one we've cut $80 million from over the last several years. That's the one that causes all the gnashing of teeth, the 1,000 jobs, the programs that we've cut, the closing schools. That's all right here in the operating budget. What we haven't talked a lot about, though, is the capital budget, and that's the one that's going to get us. We have lost 65% of our capital revenue. I think I have shared that with you before. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to spend about 5 minutes on the next slide. You've not seen this slide. It is a new one. You've seen the bar graph similar to it. But this tells the whole story, and I think it's pretty important as to our capital revenue. So let me share with you what these bars are. You see they represent our capital revenue. So let me share with you what the colors mean. You see the red? That is state PICO money. Do you know what PICO money is? It's money that used to come from the state for classic facilities needs. It's gone. The only one that gets PICO money now are charter schools. So you don't see the red anymore. The blue is our ad valorem property tax. That is what funds our capital budget, okay? This is 0708. A lot of times we say that's a high water mark. Not really. 0607 was actually a little higher in the capital budget. But the blue, this represented in 0708 2 mils of property tax. That's what it was for years and years and years. In 0809, the legislature cut a $0.25 from our capital revenue. In 910, they cut another $0.25 from our capital revenue. And we went 3 years, 12, 11, 14% drop in assessed property value. So 25% of the millage went away, and then each mill generated 11, 12, and 14%. That's the math. That's $76 million. Wham, bam, slam, it's gone. Okay? Now, let me share with you, you see the dark green here? That's capital reserve. Dark green means we've already used it. This is exactly how we've used it the last 3 years, and this is how much we've put into this year. Now, people ask, well, how do you have capital reserve? Well, when you were back in these days, plus when you were building schools or renovating schools, if the project comes in under budget, you're not allowed to take that money and move it into operating. It has to stay in the capital budget, so you have a capital reserve, okay? Do you see the light green? That's how much capital reserve is left. So we are basically just projecting to use it to equalize the next 5 years. Do you see how those bars are equal at the top? You will note that the fact of the matter is we've used most of our capital reserve, and there's no more coming. One of the myths that this kind of explodes a little bit, the good news is, do you see how the blue bars are going up? Well, that is good news. Property values are going up. There are 2 projections of assessed property value over the next decade for Brevard. The state does one, and we do one with help from the property appraiser. They are very, very close to each other. The first 5 years, Judy, they're virtually identical, right? I think. And then the second 5, we're a little more optimistic. Our projection is a little more optimistic. This is our projection. My point is, this is the most optimistic projection that currently exists of assessed property value increase over the next decade for Brevard. So folks I've had some people say, so it's all good. In 2 or 3 years, we'll be back to normal, right? Not so much. We'll be better. But let me explain kind of how it's not all back to normal. The gray line here, that's our debt. Now, the good news is we've pretty much eliminated all of our short-term debt, right? Judy, that's a good thing. The reason why this is fairly constant going out to like 2036, that's our long-term debt. That's when we built schools, renovated schools. That is the debt that will exist. Now, the red line here, that represents what we absolutely, at a minimum, should be budgeting for our capital needs. And I know there's somebody right now that's going to be thinking, what's minimum? Butterfly gardens, air-conditioned ticket booths, or whatever. I will show you how we arrive at that red line minimum. I will tell you that it is $43.3 million above the debt at every point. You'll see how the lines parallel each other. You got to pay your debt or they take your buildings. That's not an option. I'm going to tell you that that red line really is not very optional. Now, the purple arrows represent the amount of distance between what we actually spent and what we should have spent. That's called deferral. That may sound strategic, but what it means is you're not replacing things that you should be replacing, and that will come home to roost. We will pay for that eventually, and we're not far off. We have deferred $135 million. See, it's not like the operating budget. If you don't have the dollars, you have to cut operating things to pay for operating things. In the capital budget, you just stop replacing things, and you get by that way, but that will collapse. So 135 million. If we stay on this trajectory right here, we will defer nearly $400 million of infrastructure renewal by 24-25. We will not make it there. The bus system will collapse somewhere in here, and I'll explain that in a minute. So does everybody kind of get that concept? I'm going to go really quickly. This is Department of Revenue has kind of given us data. This represents the amount of dollars that we are likely to receive from a half-cent surtax, those yellow bars. It kind of destroys another myth. People will say, well, you get the half-cent surtax, man, then you're going to really be swimming in cash, and now the butterfly gardens come rolling in. The reality is, if you add up all the dollars above the red line for a decade, it comes up to $82.6 million. We have deferred 1.5 times that already. By June, we will come out with 10 years of projects using surtax revenue. And it will all be buses, chillers, roofs, safety to life. It'll be the things that we have not been replacing. And you'll see 10 years of it. And we'll have an oversight committee that says, okay, in the first quarter, the first year, you were supposed to put a new roof on Sable Elementary. Did you do that? If you didn't, why didn't you do that? Okay? So this will become a little more clear, I think, when I tell you how do we arrive at that red line. And I'll let you determine whether you think it's minimum. This is how we arrive at $43.3 million that we should be spending, but we are not. We should spend $4 million a year on buses. If we do, that is a 14-year replacement cycle for our school buses. Industry standard says you should shoot for 10 to 12. We can push it to 14. But we have not been spending that. Means we should have spent $16 million in the last 4 years, and we've spent $4 million. Folks, the average age of our bus fleet, and I think I did share this with you before, is 10.3 years. That's where we sit today. Now, did I tell you about privatizing buses? Because there's somebody right now thinking we should be privatizing buses. Well, there's one county in Florida that does, Duval County. They're going to do it for a long time because when you privatize bus service, first thing you do is sell your bus fleet. Unfortunately, for pennies on the dollar, but you do sell it. Why would you let it sit out and rust? They're out of the bus business for a long time, but they don't want to be in it. We all have to report our expenditures. Bus drivers, gas, maintenance, buses, the same way. They spend $1,110 per rider on transportation, Duval County. Last year, we spent $770 per rider. If we had bought $4 million worth of buses, we would have spent $880, because you got to count that, right? We found the same story in Indianapolis, New Orleans. You don't really save money privatizing buses. You get rid of headaches, but Duval doesn't want the headache. $6 million technology, and that is nothing new. That means we would be replacing servers on an 8-year cycle. Industry standard says 5 to 8. And we would replace our desktop technology every 5 years. There was a gentleman at one of my meetings yesterday at a school from Harris who was appalled by this. But that is what $6 million does. Nothing new. Now, I will point out, this is the technology that our capital budget supports. There are plenty of schools out there where PTA is adding additional technology. The principal uses their discretionary money to throw some technology out there. Some schools, that's a reality, and other schools, not so much. The technology supported by our capital budget, this means absolutely nothing new and standing pat on a replacement cycle that's above industry standard. But we haven't been doing that. We should have spent $24 million in the last 4 years, and we spent $8.46. From a technology standpoint, supported by the district, we're going backwards. And that's a fact. This is the one, however, that really is the linchpin. This is the one that's getting us. I'm not a card-carrying member of the APPA, the Association of Physical Plant Administrators. Dane Theodore is. But they're the people who advise folks who facilities plan, and they basically say, you have to, and it doesn't matter what you are, school district, to Publix, you know, college, university, you got to budget 1.5% to 3% of the value of your facilities, because stuff will fail, and it will fail on a pretty predictable basis. Everything has a life cycle. Your chillers have a 15-year life cycle. Your window units have a 7-year life cycle. Doors, carpeting, roofs, all of it has a life cycle, and it will fail on a pretty predictable basis. And so they say, if you don't budget 1.5% to 3% of the overall value of those facilities, you're going to run into trouble, which means we should have spent $110 million in the last 4 years, and we spent 20. We used to budget 27, 28 million for infrastructure renewal every year. It's the responsible thing to do. We just don't have the money. Now, rounding out our 43.3 million is 5.8 million for repair at failure. Ironically, we used to spend 7.1 million in this line item when we were renewing things. We ran out of this money in May last year. You know, basically, what happens when you run out of it, you cancel a couple projects that you should have done, move the money over, and repair things at failure, and the hole got deeper. When I did this presentation at Columbia Elementary, I was flanked by 3 temporary chillers in their media center, because that's one of the projects we eliminated. Their chiller should have been replaced. We have yet to replace it. In this very room, I had principals in a leadership team meeting a few months ago, and I asked, how many last year had the air go out in your school? And it was over half the hands went up. Now, we own 2 temporary chillers. Did I tell you this? We own 2 temporary chillers. Because when the air goes down, you run a chiller out there. It might be 2 weeks for a part, 6 weeks for a unit, right? When I asked last year, we had 9 temporary chillers out in the field. You say, well, Brian, you only have 2. That's correct. We're renting 7. It is a horribly inefficient and ultimately more expensive way to work. But it's the only way that is available to us right now. Ironically, that very meeting, when we were having this conversation with principals, Dane Theodore got an email. Water was bubbling up. Who's from Sable Elementary? Anyone? Water was bubbling up through the floor at Sable Elementary, like Jed Clampett shooting at some food, right? Actually, when water bubbles, that's a pretty good thing, because they would at least know the leak is there. Folks, we have miles of galvanized steel pipe, and it's leaking everywhere. We're getting good at seeing a spike in water use and knowing there's a leak out there somewhere, because that costs money too. But what happens is, we go out, we patch the leak, we put new pipe in, kind of back to where the pipe has fidelity, or we route pipe around the leak, knowing that the same pipe 800 yards down the way it's going to leak there too. It might be doing it right now. What should be done is what we did at Palm Bay High School as part of a project. It was failing everywhere. It all came up, replaced it with PVC, then neither you nor your children have to worry about it again, but that was $100,000. It's what we should do in many, many places, but we just can't. So let me give you a little reality disconnect, just that's in my world. Last year, when we talked about HVAC, I had a county commissioner say, just bring in fans. But I also had a parent call the governor the day the AC went out. So there's a big reality disconnect from just kind of bringing fans to, hey, governor, the air's out down here. Can't you do something with these people? That's not the expectation that our customers have, certainly. Now, the reality is, folks, at some point, if we continue down this path, the buses become irreparable. How many put a child on a bus? Okay, have I told you we inspect our buses every 30 days? If you put a child on a bus, you want to hear this. We have a full inspection of our buses every 30 days. And it isn't like, looks good to me. It's a 2.5-hour safety inspection, full safety. There are 22, 23 buses in our fleet right now off the road getting inspected every day. The problem, I mean, the challenge is, of course, if they don't meet inspection, they don't get back on the road. We ran out of this budget as well last year. And fortunately, fuel was reduced and we could move the money over. But folks, we will have to spend $4 million on buses soon, one way or the other. Because the cost of making them roadworthy will be just the same as buying new buses. Our HVAC will fail. I think it's Margaret Mead who said, nature always wins. We don't buy magic chillers. They don't stop getting older because we don't have money. And they are beginning to fail upon themselves. The roofs no longer become a barrier to water. Long before water starts dripping down through these seams, moisture gets up there and mold gets down here. I mentioned the roof at Sable Elementary. It's becoming almost criminal that we're not replacing that roof. I don't know, right? I mean, it's terrible. It's number one. It's year number one, I'm going to tell you. That one I can predict. I know. Repair and repair and repair. Pipes fail. And folks, here's the point that I'm making to you. This is not optional. When these things happen, they're not optional. And they are going to be happening to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. They are happening now. You noticed that the grass got longer in the fall, right? Didn't look as good. I'm sorry. What we did is we took some custodial complement away from every school, took their lawn equipment away from them, centralized it with us, saved almost $500,000, but we didn't do it as well as we could have or should have. I think we'll do it better in the spring, but here's the deal. The grass can get longer. That can happen. This stuff's not optional. When it happens, it's not optional. And so if it's not optional, and if it's to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, where will the money come from? I will tell you that the Superintendent's Association has asked for the last 2 years, hey, legislators, can you consider returning at least $250,000 of that capital revenue that you took away in 8, 9, and 9, 10? We're not the only one with this problem. Everyone lost a quarter of their capital millage. People are struggling to buy school buses everywhere. Our problem is bigger, and I'm going to share why in a minute, but I'm going to tell you that that's dead on arrival. That's not happening, folks. I showed you that our capital reserve is almost gone, and it is, which leaves us with the sales tax. Now, some of this you've heard, some of you haven't. There are 55 counties in Florida that already have a sales surtax. Others have additional millage. For instance, Seminole does not have a surtax, but they have additional millage that their citizens voted for. Okay? So I always say this to every group. I may have said it to you. I'll say it again. There's not a person in this room that hasn't jumped on a road they make you pay to drive on, gone to Orlando, spent some money, and when you did, you supported Orange County Public Schools. You did. Their folks jump on the same road, come jump in the ocean, spend some money here, and don't support your schools at all. We are working with our tourism folks. It gets hard. The numbers are hard to, because you go to the grocery store, food is not included in surtax, but paper plates are. You know, getting an accurate conveyance, but we think, you know, conservatively, a quarter of the dollars from our surtax will be paid by visitors and tourists. It may be more. We're working to get that number as accurately as I don't want to lie to people, but I want to tell them defensively that this is money that you pay when you go elsewhere, that they don't. Now, let me tell you a little bit about those 12 districts beside us, the 11 other districts. There is an assessed property value per student in Florida. Have I said this to you before? Okay. Have I? No. Okay, it's $526,000 per student. When you add up all the assessed value, divide by the number of public school kids, it's $526,000 per student. The 11 other districts besides us collectively are 22% above that state average. In other words, maybe Palm Beach doesn't need the surtax when you're rocking $1 million per student. Monroe is $2 million over Key West. We are 23% below the state average. We are $412,000 per student. There's two reasons. One I already gave you, the 11, 12, and 14% drop in our property assessed value was the highest three-year drop, I think, of any county in Florida. The other reason is all our federal land. It's not taxed. Somebody out there saying, yeah, but the federal government gives you money. They do. It's impact aid. We got $800,000 total, right, Judy? Last year, $800,000. So that adds another $10, $11 per student, if you want to look at it that way. So instead of 412, maybe we're at 423. We kind of stand alone as losing on both ends. All right? So if we're not successful with the surtax, where will the money come from? And this is what we all need to understand. It won't be optional, and there's only one place to get it, and that's the operating fund. And I always tell our folks at schools, let's remind ourselves what the operating fund is. When we talk to community groups, right now, I give them a lot of the what's at stake stuff, the stuff you already know because we've shared with you the science research, the arts, the robotics, the rigorous coursework, the media centers, the things that we don't have to provide, but we do, that make us great. I'm not going to go over that with you because you know it. But I will tell you what we are telling our schools because this is pretty important. If the sales tax is defeated, conservatively in 15-16, not next year, 15-16, but we will have to begin doing things in 14-15 to pull back money if we're not successful. We will have to conservatively take $8 million at least from the operating fund and move it over to capital. And it won't be optional. And folks, I also don't want anyone to think, well, $8 million, that'll be tough. That'll be tough. But at least we'll solve the problem. No, we won't. $8 million will keep us doing what we're doing right now. Patch the roof, repair the bus, route the pipe, keep us going, and we'll keep deferring $19, $20 million that all of our children will pay for. You'll pay for it if you're young enough and you stay here long enough. That's just a reality. Now, there is good news, and I know you're thinking, well, you're 25 minutes in, so thank goodness we're at it. If the sales tax passes, if it passes, first of all, obviously, we will be starting to meet infrastructure needs that we have put off too long. Roofs, chillers, we will get on pace to protect our $1.8 billion worth of facilities investments. We will do that. But the other good news, folks, is let me tell you one piece of good news. We spend $4 million on property insurance, right? That's a great deal. Have I told you about our great deal before? I have, because we got a full appraisal. We're the only district in Florida that has that. We bought more property insurance a few years ago and spent $500,000 less. We are protected against the 100-year storm now. We weren't when I got here. There's a formulaic thing. You have to buy enough property insurance to protect yourself against a 100-year storm. Why is that important? Because if the storm hits and you didn't do that, FEMA will not give you a penny, not one penny. We are protected, but we spend $4 million on property insurance. Now, the good, kind Miss Preston will tell you, she gets a little edgy when I talk about this. We are allowed to pay for property insurance out of the operating or the capital budget. We are. It's one of few things that we can do that way. Folks, we pay for it out of operating because we don't have capital dollars. But if we are successful in a surtax infusion of capital money, what's the first thing we might do? I already gave it to you. We'll move property insurance and pay for it out of the capital budget. That would have the effect of returning $4 million to the operating fund. So this is the final slide, and then I'll open the floor to questions, because this is what everyone needs to really understand, what's at stake. There is a $12 million swing in the operating fund based on this vote. Yes, it will help us meet infrastructure needs that we have to meet, but it will represent a $12 million swing in the operating fund. And we want to make sure that everybody understands that and the things that are at stake. So with that, I'm going to open the floor. We have a good half hour. Go to the mic. The only thing is, in the last 5 minutes, I want to make you aware of something with school grades, because I may rally you. I'm going to call a commissioner today, but don't let me leave without telling you that. Go ahead.
This is now the 4th time that I've heard your presentation.
Really?
Yes.
How can that be?
I don't know.
What school?
I saw you at Vieira High. I
Okay.
saw you when you spoke a couple months ago to us. I saw you at Suntree Elementary and now. And it took till the 3rd time that I didn't think you were full of crap, I'll be honest. I was telling my principal, I don't know if it took 3 times to hear it or if you're getting better at it. Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, could
but
be.
What I do want to say is, when I heard you talk to the teachers, was really when I got that, it was like watching the family chat and seeing that the teachers love you and you really care. And when I heard what
This is getting better now, thank you.
Right.
For that. Yeah.
I mean,
full of crap thing was,
well,
yeah. There's nowhere to go but up.
I've seen you. You've been getting beat up out there. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen it. And the first couple times I saw you present, I witnessed some of the naysayers, and I have to say they really got to me. And I was thinking, yeah, how did we get here? What are you gonna? Why are you dressed so nice? Couldn't you take a pay cut? It all got into my head, and I bought into it. And I'm a very skeptical person. And one thing you had said one time where I thought, this is where I'm really going to catch him in a lie. Mm-hmm. You had name-dropped a company, Sodexo, about them looking into our efficiency.
Food service.
Right. My best friends happened to work there, so I thought, now I'm going to catch him.
He's lying now because his lips are moving.
And at first, I thought I was on the case. I was ready to call Channel 9 News because they said, we've been trying.
You wouldn't be the first.
They said, we've been trying to get in there. And I thought, aha, he said he's already talked to you. And so I said that, and my friend actually texted me back from Sodexo. And this is a company that looked into privatizing our food service business. And she said, and this is a quote, "As hard as it is for me to believe we would say something like this, apparently Brevard School District's food service is operating more efficiently than we could operate it. Looks like we've given up on recommending that they outsource, but we are now looking at their facilities, services, building equipment maintenance, landscaping, and custodial to see if we can cut their costs in these areas." And they may be able to, but honestly, as a district, we cannot even entertain this without the sales cut. So I don't know if you are allowed to tell everybody this because it is an initiative, the Brevard Save Our Students, but I'm allowed to.
Oh, yeah.
So this Monday, everybody get your pen if you haven't already heard this, March 10th at 6 p.m., if you want to be a part of the solution instead of the miscommunication. I don't care how we got here. The bottom line is it's our kids that are going to pay the price if we don't fix it. I mean, your kids stomping through puddles at school, I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't care how we got here. We have to fix it. If there's only this many districts not charging the sales tax, but we're ranking so high in performance, why aren't we paying for what we're getting? It's ridiculous. And we're going to use the money of people who are visiting our beaches, our space center. I mean, it only makes sense. So it's March 10th, 6 p.m., Brevard Save Our Students. Everyone's welcome. It's at Vieira High School Auditorium. It's only going to last an hour. And it's going to take a grassroots efforts of all of us. I don't know if we're going to have to put pictures of our kids on posters and march the streets and take a cup and say, please pay for what we're getting. So thank you.
Thank you. I did mention that another company looked at our electricity, spent a day with us, said we can't help you. Another one, a guy most recently claimed he could save an average of 40% on our waste hauling. Well, okay, we had right-sized our waste hauling and saved $250,000 last year, but we welcomed him in. He promised 10%. If you let me speak to you, I promise you 10%. He spoke to us, said, never mind. I said, I want my 10%, you know, liar. But my point is, these are private sector folks, and it's all they do. Their whole business model is based on the inefficiency of schools and governments. And every one of them we've invited in has said, we can't help you. I'm proud of that. Go ahead.
So going with that, did you invite in any of the private bus companies to provide this county a estimate of how much it could provide or save or not save?
We have not. We spend less per rider than the state average. Who's using the private carrier that is? What are you spending?
Oh, what is it? 2,000 for two. So about 1,000 for the year.
Yeah, just what I said.
Yeah.
We spend $770, and I'm going to tell you the private carrier, and if you ask them, they'll acknowledge they're breaking their own business rules, doing things in Brevard they would typically not do to try to get in.
But
so,
given that the county needs to buy so many new buses, is that factored into?
Yeah, oh yeah, it all counts.
Okay.
But I told you, if we had spent $4 million on buses like we should have, our per rider cost would have been $880 instead of $770. Yeah, you have to count all that, but so do they. They're not getting buses for free.
Right.
New Orleans, we studied their contract.
Okay.
Not only do they spend a lot more per rider, they lost ridership. Now, I don't speak why. Okay. I don't care. I just know that has happened.
And then for the sales tax, are you, or somehow in the verbiage, is it going to be out there that there will be definitely an oversight committee to help ease
It
some
will
people
most certainly be in the resolution. In the ballot language itself, you get 75 words. You got to make them count.
Okay.
But there's a resolution that is a companion document with it. We'll have to decide how important that is in the...
Because that may make a difference for some people's vote. Okay, thanks.
So after the failure of the last sales tax vote, what has the district learned regarding how you're going to market this to our voters?
Okay.
Are you going to partner with chambers of commerce, other organizations that other counties have done successfully?
Did last time. You have no idea how much the chamber and businesses sent our information to tens of thousands of people. I mean, let me just give you a miniature amount of pushback, if you will. The sales tax has been out in this county before, twice, and it got crushed. It got crushed over 2-1. We lost 51.5 to 48.5. We met with I spoke at every chamber, and they did a good job sending information, more than you know. I'm going to tell you, I tell our teachers, I look them in the eye and I say this at school meetings, right? I'm meeting with them in non-optional meetings because the reality is when I spoke at Lockheed Martin, there were more people listening to me than we had in our own schools. Yeah, we've studied precincts. Everybody wants to blame retirees. The average age in Brevard is 50. Average age in Orange County is 35. That's a tough nut for us to crack. But there's no evidence they did any worse than anybody else, to be honest with you. We carried them all in 2010, carried Barefoot Bay. That is a tough nut to crack. Honestly, if we had held straight serve with our own employees and our own parents, we'd probably have the surtax right now. Now, having said all that, obviously the PAC is a big part. They have to raise money. They're doing it now. They're going to do very well. It's starting to mushroom. That'll be the classic. They can advocate, just like she said. I can't tell you how to vote. But when 80,000 absentee ballots go out, so will something from the PAC absolutely telling people vote yes, right? You may or may not know, at Mel High in November, we had 40-some of the most influential private citizens. Did I tell you this? At Mel High, culinary arts kids fed them. No tax money went to that. When I say that, cabinet-level people from AAR, Embraer, Harris, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Florida Power and Light, also some CEOs from other small but influential businesses, all the chamber presidents, the association presidents, restaurant and lodging, the economic development president, Linda Weatherman, a couple other community activists. We walk through some of this stuff and they get it. They know that's not sustainable. I mean, no business can work like that. And they have committed to supporting us in a variety of ways. They did last time and they will again. But I'm going to tell all of you. People say, Brian, what are you going to do? I must have spoke to 60, 70 groups last time. I'll probably speak to 80 or 90 this time. I'll do that. I really will. Red Hat Ladies, Retired Military, West Melbourne Business Association, League of Cities. I've spoke to all of them in just the last couple weeks, right? We will have on our website a cadre of tools, videos, PowerPoints if you feel comfortable delivering them, that I don't care if you're in a book club, a homeowners association, wine club. While we're trying this month's Chardonnay, can I show you this video? We will invite all of you into that information effort because that's what it's going to take. We'll have the tools available for you with, hopefully by the end of the month. There are already some there right now. The site is live. It's got a couple videos. It's got this and other PowerPoints. Our PAC is going to try to get an army of volunteers that does some classic campaign door-knocking stuff and you name it. But I will tell you, some of those folks helped us more last time than you know. And I really count on them to try to help us again.
So you've obviously analyzed what all the other counties have done who
Yes.
have successfully, and our district is doing, or our county is doing every single thing that these other counties did, yet somehow our voters
As much as we can. Understand, nobody last time got a new surtax. Nobody. Everybody that passed had a surtax that was already on the books, and they were asking to keep it. You understand that, right? Mm-hmm. That's a different animal than trying to get
a new one.
A new one. Mm-hmm. We were the closest of anybody that went out there for a new one in 2012. So I'm not making excuses. We're going to work very, very hard, but we need your help. If if it's important, we need well, it is important. I'm going to tell you, we're almost out of capital reserve, and in 15-16 we're going to be in trouble. And some of you in this room cornered me right out in the hall. I don't know, I can't remember exactly who you were. I won't point fingers. You said, "Hold us hostage." Remember that? Somebody put their finger right in my face. And what they meant was, you can't force all of us to come to the school and get this information. But where we gather in mass, you make us listen to this. That's what a few of you, you're in here, you told me, right? The winter video before the holiday concert, right? And I told some of you that's not going to make some people happy. And you know what? We get a little pushback. At the King Center, our all-county chorus, how many went to those Anybody? Did I speak? What did I tell people? This may go away. Because you got, and I don't want to know that and not tell you. So I'm living what you told me. And remember, I said people get mad, and you said, "Yeah, that's okay. You can take it. You're a big boy." Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just going to play off of what you said. That you said it took 3 times for you to kind of understand. This is my second this week, and I think I understand a lot more than I did on Monday. So I think when you are talking to a lot of like the Red Hat ladies, or not to throw them under the bus, but you kind of need to dumb it down a little bit. I think something that happened a couple years ago when we did the federal budget, they were talking about when you get into all this money and all this, you put all these aspects into it, it gets really kind of lost in translation. But one thing I remember seeing, it was like they took the federal budget and how much our debt is, and they put it into a household income. I don't know if y'all saw it, where they took out like all the zeros. And then you saw what like their budget, what like you couldn't live off of that. Right. And whether or not it was accurate or not, but that's to debate. But like something like just make it simpler for us to understand.
We did that last time. This is not, nobody sees this besides our school staff and you. Okay. This is not for public consumption. Okay. Because you're right. One of the things, I don't have time in many cases. But we basically get to them. What's at stake? What might go away? We last time gave a $100,000 home, which is like the average. If you were budgeting for the renewal of anything that might break in your home, and you were budgeting like we were, it was like $137. I mean, it was insane. Right. In other words, nobody who owns a home thinks, I can just put aside, $13, and that'll cover. I drove in my garage one day, and there was water on the floor. I knew that wasn't good. I mean, I was no plumber, but I knew that wasn't good.
Right. But that has a big impact when you see it like that, when you bring it down to where we understand it, because that's how we budget our lives. Yeah. That totally hits home.
We will do that. We are doing that. Yeah.
I saw your video at the winter concert. I saw you at All County Orchestra. If you brought this out, I missed it. I think it needs to be driven home. To follow on what she said, bring it home. Quantify, how much is it going to be for the average family?
Yeah, we did that last time.
Okay, that needs to be on the top of everything.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be drilled in heads.
We will.
What is that number? Do you have it quantified?
It was like around $30, $40, something like that.
Put that out there, $30, $40 a year.
We will.
If parents see that, if communities see that, I think they're more, that's what speaks to them.
It was in every presentation that we did last year. It was in every materials.
Right.
And what we do is we take the average Brevard income. We use Department of Revenue-like data to say, how much do you spend if you're an average person? You can never know exactly. The more wealthy you are, the more you're likely to spend. Also, our homeowners got a $250,000 drop. You got to spend quite a bit of money as a homeowner just to break even, to be very honest with you. So we will have that in the message. It's going to be in the materials that you'll have. This is, on an average, if you spend the average amount of money, $30, $40. We had people come up to us afterwards who did have to use the corridor busing service, right? Say, I wish I would have voted. Well, I wish you would have too. I mean, we weren't hiding that fact. We had the cut list displayed and said all of these things are going to go. And they did. Yes?
If the people in this room want their children to have a quality education, we need a 5-cent tax, but we will go for the half cent.
We will. And 10 years. It has to sunset.
But you have got to do this, and you have got to demand it from your legislature, from you, from each other. And I challenge everyone in this room that we have one more meeting this year. For each one of you, bring one more person. We'll make room for them. You spread it out. You get out there. You get at the grassroots, and you make them listen.
Or bring them to this group, because that's exactly what they're doing, developing grassroots army. That's what you got. Over 100 and some people coming to your next meeting, and right, and that is absolutely what we need. Any other question before I launch into a final thought? I want to launch into this because it's and I appreciate your comments. I really do. Because people saying, oh, we can't trust you. What don't you trust? Help me. Tell me specifically, because let me share this with you folks. Yeah. Because here's the thing. You know that VAM data that just got released? It's terrible for teachers because it's VAM based on teachers' performance that they didn't even teach the kids. Anything. But from a district perspective, it's doing what it's supposed to do. I've shared with you what VAM is supposed to do, right? It really kind of controls for all the poverty and all that kind of stuff, and then it really just is a growth model to see whose kids are growing academically more than you would predict based on this formula. It really does pretty good. For example, Dixie County in Florida is one of the most impoverished counties in all of Florida, and they are now second in the state in VAM, in value added. It's because that field has been leveled. And their kids, while they didn't perform as well, perhaps, as St. John's, the richest county, they did grow, right? So it used to be, if you were a rich school or a rich county, you were at the top. If you were a poor school or poor county, you were at the bottom. That world has been flipped, okay? Nassau County is 29th in VAM. They are 4th, I think, in poverty. They've never been anywhere but in the top. I'm going to tell you that we are in the top quartile in the state in 3-year VAM, higher than every other Central Florida school district, higher than Indian River, Polk, Lake, Osceola, Seminole, Orange, Volusia, higher than all of them. So, okay, our kids do well on FCAT. That's good. Wonderful. But let me throw another thing out. Those districts that I just mentioned to you, none of them can touch us in graduation rate, in all-state music, in science and engineering fair research, in advanced placement, international baccalaureate, Cambridge, industry certification, Odyssey of the Mind, future problem solving. We are about so much more than FCAT. They can't touch us. None of them can touch us on that. And you want to know what is common about all of them as well? They all spend additional tax dollars to support their schools. Folks, all I can say is this. If we were a private sector organization and we could say that we offered better service to customers at lower cost, we wouldn't be out there apologizing to anybody. We'd be out there extolling the virtues of our business model, our priorities, and our efficiencies. We are proud of our efficiencies. $4.5 million in electricity, and it all went to schools. That's what we've saved, 30% drop in our kilowatt-hour consumption. I just say at some point we've earned somebody's trust, I hope, but those things are in jeopardy. If you look at the list that we have out there, we are long past the point where there's anything on it that nobody cares about. That's a fact. We had elementary kids on the King Center stage Saturday. They were beautiful. They were absolutely beautiful. And they loved doing it. That's what's at stake. Because we don't have to do that. The last point I want to share with you that I'll be bringing you information more about, and then if you have any other questions. I have 5 minutes, right? Don't I? Okay. They just released next year in school grades. They are proposing taking away the participation element at the high school level for industry certification, for advanced placement, for all of those things. Folks, I'm going to tell Pam Stewart that is insane. Because what that will mean, right now, districts get 50% kind of bonus points for participation in those things, but then 50% on the kids' success. You have to pass, right? That's a good mix. You want to drive more kids into that coursework, and you want to make more of them successful. Brevard has done that. That's why our high schools, we have 14 A high schools. Seminole has higher FCAT scores than us. Yay, they can't touch our grades because they can't compare with us on those other things. The result of what the Florida Department of Ed is now proposing is, here's what's going to happen. People are going to drive down the number of kids in advanced placement coursework and just get a few that can pass it, and your percentage goes up, and you win, and kids lose. I'm going to tell you, I promise you this, we will not do that. We will not do that, but we will be penalized. There will be people, right now, I told you about the math double testing, right? Did I tell you that? 8th grade kids take the algebra test. Your brightest kids take the algebra test, right? Over half of ours do in 8th grade. The state is allowing people to give those kids not only the algebra test, but the 8th grade test, a course that they never even took. Meaningless, no diagnostic value. Why are people giving it to them? Because they'll pass both tests and the district looks better. People who stand up and talk about too much testing and then they do that. We don't give our kids that second. Why would we give them a second test that means nothing, that is no diagnostic value just to make us look better? We refuse to do it. We're going to refuse to stop putting more kids in industry certification, and other people will look better than us by doing things that are harmful to kids. I think that's appalling. I'm going to tell the commissioner that now and next month when we go to Tallahassee, and I'm going to tell him I'm going to mobilize every parent I can mobilize to go after you and the Department of Ed for this decision. I promise you, we will make decisions for your children. Did I tell you about the graduation rate company that came to me one time? I didn't tell you this? Did I tell you this? Okay. Here's what there's only one district in Florida, by the way, that's been in the top 5 in graduation for the last 6 years, and your children go to it. Yeah. Yay. But you know, there's a district that's ahead of us. They tout a 0% dropout rate. Really? Not a single child ever leaves? I had a company come to me 4 years ago, I guess. Here's what we can do for you, Brian. Very excited, very excited. We can take your kids that are not going to make it, and the last month of school, last day of school if you want, we can move them over to a virtual school in Pennsylvania, fully accredited. They come off your books, and your graduation rate looks better. I told them, we're finished here. These are our kids. The day I do that, it's time for me to go. You can talk to other people, but we're not going to entertain that here. These are our kids, and we'll get them through. And we do. We will make decisions that are best for children, even when others look better not doing it. That I commit to you as long as I'm here. And we're going to do it again if they continue with this, I think, just short-sighted approach. Because you know, if you got a district the same size, and this district puts 2,000 kids in accelerated coursework with a pass rate of 75%, and this district puts 200 kids in with a pass rate of 90%, and they look better, that's what's going to happen. You'd like to think it won't, but it will. It won't happen here. That I promise you. So, any other questions? That was enough, boy. I let fly, didn't I? Okay, thank you. And any other stuff, that website will be live. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them via email. Thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Bingley. Well, I have to be honest, I learn something new every time I hear his presentations too, and I've heard them a lot also. So thank you so much. I am so excited to present to you one of your fellow parents who's going to present to you about Parents on Patrol, or POP. And Mr. Elliott, I believe, is going to be doing that presentation. And I'm really hoping that you guys will listen. I think sometimes it's so easy for us to say, parents don't care, parents don't want to come. Well, here's an idea to truly engage them. And maybe if we give them projects and things to do, that might be the ticket. So without further ado, Mr. Elliott. Did you have a slideshow? Okay. But you had a slideshow though, right? Okay. Well, if you want to start just talking to them, let me see if I can find it.
Morning. My name is Harry Elliott, and I have children that go to Harbor City Elementary on Sarno Road in Melbourne. And in the wake of the Sandy Hook tragedy that took place a little over a year ago, I believe it was, we met as parents at a safety meeting about a month after that took place. And we talked about what we could do as parents to get involved with the school and safety features that the school needs or is lacking. At the safety meeting, we had talked about fencing, security cameras, police involvement, things that we didn't have. And in lieu of these things, we said, what could we do to get involved and be a little bit more proactive as far as the safety and security of the school is concerned. I know everybody's concerned about the education of their child, but one of the things that I was concerned about is the safety of our children. When you don't have the proper structure, you don't have maybe enough personnel, you don't have equipment to, for instance, cameras and monitors, or one entry point into your school where you can have a flood of people come in all different directions into the school. We wanted to have a little bit more presence at the school. I guess we're still waiting on the PowerPoint.
And guess what? I don't have it.
You can, it's on my flash drive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll fix it.
Right, and
here.
just,
Okay.
all you have to do is just find the,
Oh, there we go. Okay.
and there's just one folder in there. I don't have a lot of time to talk, so if we don't get to the PowerPoint, it's not that big of a deal. But along with myself and Jeff Jacqueline, and the principal at the time, her name was Christine Moore, we scoured the internet to see if there was any other programs about volunteers being a presence at the school to enforce the school policies and the securities of the school. We came up with POPs. We found this as a program in Santa Fe, Texas. It stands for Parents on Patrol Squad. That's it. You can go on to the next one. I've already gone through this one. So the why, we can go, this is, we can stop right here.
Okay.
So we asked, what can we as concerned parents and guardians do today to help maintain a higher level of safety and security while our children are attending school? Next one. We come up with this volunteer program that all we do is we walk around with walkie-talkies. We make sure parents know where the office is. We make sure that there's no bad activity going on at the school. The caveat that I have for you is that I have no law enforcement training. I have no safety training. I just wanted to be there to make sure that my children were okay and safe, in lieu of not having the fences, the cameras, or any kind of police involvement. One of the things we came up with is a confidentiality and a agreement form that we have to sign. And basically, you can go back to the previous one. This is our mission statement, and our vision is minimum interaction with maximum reinforcement, which means we don't have to engage all that much, but we want to make sure that our presence is known. And here our general agreements are we're not allowed to do certain things, but we are allowed to do other things. For instance, we greet all the visitors on the campus. We make sure that everybody's wearing a badge. They check in at the office. We greet all the students. We follow all the rules. One of the things we cannot engage in is any type of physical restraint or interference. Now, if you want to have this program at your school, you may have other agreements that you want to go with your principal or disciplinary personnel there. In the event that a POPS volunteer sees or hears something that causes them concern, they are to immediately notify administration. If they see something that is an immediate or an imminent threat, then we call 911, then administration. And this is our pledge that we sign, that we're not going to divulge any information about students, teachers, or other volunteers. So at our school, we're just trying to make a difference. We're just trying to get more involved. And as I spoke with some of the gentlemen in the back there, it's nice to have a male presence at the school. Normally we see a lot of female volunteers. A lot of the teachers have said that they, the schools, or the students rather, they look up to the father figures and like seeing them around. So I have just a few packets that I'm going to leave up here at the desk. I have my name and my email address and some of the forms that we filled out when we signed up. It's a really great program, and I think everybody can get involved in that. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really get excited about things when they include fathers and when they're sort of specific. Because, you know, we're always saying volunteer, volunteer, but when we can say volunteer, stand and guard our children, I think that's pretty powerful. So I really, really hope and expect, in a way, that many of you will take this back to your schools. Now, I am excited to present the person or people, organization, who's responsible for those awesome blue bags. They are so cool. That was so generous and kind of you to give them to us. So I would like to introduce Meredith Gibson from Community Credit Union. And, I'm sorry. And Deborah Blair. And Deborah Blair from the Education Office as well. And I'll get your PowerPoint.
Hi, just to clarify for those of you who aren't already familiar with Deborah, she is an employee of Community Credit Union for many years. She is our education officer. She's the one who comes to the schools, runs the Money Masters branches, does all the financial education. Last year she presented seminars to, over 3,500 students. So, and she does community work on financial education as well. So while we're gearing up here, I just want to say that Deborah and I are very pleased to be here today to introduce this new program that will help support the schools with a new fundraising option. Deborah will be bolting momentarily. She's going back to the FIT High School Ethics Competition, which is taking place today. CCU has sponsored that competition for 18 years. My son is 23 years old, still has his t-shirt. Before I talk about the program, I just wanted to mention that Deborah Blair is your contact for the program. If you don't have it, I think we have some cards. Also, there's a bookmark in your bag, and that has the Bucks page, the vanity, the address where you can go to on the CCU site. Deborah's contact information will be there. You'll be able to send her an email. So she'll be the one that you can talk to about developing a personalized program for your school using the School Bucks program. I also want to mention that the program is intended to provide you with unrestricted funds to spend as you wish. And so this will be part of what you'll talk about. Bye, Deborah. Thank you. Part of what you'll talk about with Deborah when you meet with her is what is it you need to raise funds for? Is it a computer? You know, there's specific things, and but it's up to you how to spend the funds. And to get going, we'll be offering some incentives to encourage you to spread the word. So again, please contact Deborah about a plan for your school. All right. Sure, you can operate if you want. All right. The School Bucks program can be a great addition to your fundraising activities. As it says on the screen and on the bookmark, you don't have to bake anything, wash anything, or sell anything. So, can I hear an amen? All right. All you have to do is take your CCU debit or credit card, and you all have one, don't you? You all belong to the credit union that has supported the schools since like forever, was founded by teachers. If you don't have one, please visit our website. And you're just going to go online, fill out a simple online registration form, and CCU will make a donation to the school you choose from the drop-down menu. It's very simple. If there's one cash donation made for each registered card. So if in your family, if you have multiple credit and debit cards from CCU, you may register each of them one time. And you'll be able to generate multiple cash donations from the credit union. And you can choose different schools. So if you have your kids going to a couple of schools, register different cards, you can support different schools. Any CCU member, age 13 or older, who has a valid debit card with a checking account or a credit card can register, could go online and register their card. The person registering the card does not have to be directly associated with the school in any way, so your family and friends can sign up as well. And again, just to reiterate, the donation is made by CCU. You are not, nothing is taken out of your account. There's no cost to you. I'm going to make this PowerPoint available to you. This will get emailed out to you, so we'll kind of go through it quickly to keep you on time, but all the details will be there and Deborah can fill you in. Just so you know, you will have to have a card with the 16-digit number handy, but we're only asking you to enter the last 7 digits. It's there, so there's no security risk there. We are not sharing any information with any third party, with the schools. The schools will Brevard schools will simply get a count of how many cards were registered to benefit a particular school. When we make the donation, we'll give them an accounting of that. So it's all very private. We can go ahead. We will disperse school donations quarterly to Brevard Public School Systems, and then the Brevard Public School will in turn distribute the funds directly to the schools. And you're not capped on the amount you can earn. If you can get 500 people to sign up your school, you get 500 donations generated. We are going to have a few incentives. One thing we're going to do as standard is a $25 donation to the school for each approved marketing or promotional item. So we'll have materials available. If you say, hey, we're going to distribute this flyer, we're going to distribute the bookmarks, right off the bat, we'll pay you an advertising fee for that. Deborah will also be working with you to come up with incentives. We want to get this thing going, so we'll have other cash incentives as well, perhaps higher donations or a match, that kind of thing. We can keep going. We can keep going. And all right, so there's Deborah's information, and she's, please contact her. One thing, we can leave it on there. Thank you very much. Thank you, Venna. It was lovely. The one thing I wanted to let you know is this is a cooperative program. We're a credit union. We're cooperatively owned by our members, and the members pool all their money to lend to other members and pay interest to other members. So this is a cooperative program. By pooling our members in the community's small donations together, we were able in 2013 to raise $45,000 to buy a new truck for Aging Matters for the Meals on Wheels program. And that's something they had been wanting for years and years and years. So it's the same thing here. This is a cooperative program. If you aren't familiar with the difference between banks and credit unions, this is a great time to get on our site or maybe go on the Credit Union National Association site and learn the difference. And we feel this program is a direct reflection of our cooperative way of trying to benefit the community and our members. So that's about all I have. The program will officially launch on Monday. So if you go to the web page right now, it's blank. But by Monday, we will have it. And you can just, if you have a CCU credit or debit card, please just go ahead and try it yourself, register a card. If you have any questions, get in touch with Deborah. So that's all I have, unless somebody has a question about the program. All right, well, happy fundraising.
I have to say, they have been so generous and have helped me with the parenting workshop in the past. So I really encourage you to support them, and thank you for the support and for those gorgeous bags. They're really awesome. One more thing, don't leave yet. Heather wants to share something with you, a little more information. Get your pens out one last time for her.
Real quick, I forgot with the Brevard Save Our Students. And again, I'm saying this because the school board cannot. They have a website where you can sign up to volunteer, make contributions, find articles to help plead your case, announcements on their status, and that website is www.b as in Brevard, S as in save, O as in R, S as in students, the number 14.org. And they also have a Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, if you are working on that strategic plan with Andrea Alford and Dr. Mullins, they're meeting right in that room right over there. Wave, Dr. Mullins. There he is. So if you, we're finishing actually early. This never happens. Yeah. Okay, wait a minute. Dr. Mullins, grab a mic.
I was using my coaching voice. We probably had 30 to 40 parents stay at the beginning, and some of that has trickled off. If that was because there was a sense that the time commitment was going to be overwhelming, we believe we've expedited it. If you have literally 15, no more than 20 more minutes to meet with us, we're going to simply bring you up to date, ask for you to help us with scenario 2, if you remember what the initiative involved, and get you on your way and answer any questions. South, Central, North area schools are set up in the room next door. If you could come and join us, we'll have you out by 11:40. Promise. Thanks.
Dr. Mullins. Thank you all. Last meeting is in April. We'll see you then. Or actually, you'll see Diana and Javon.